my name is Amelia Vance. For most of my 30 years, my life has been a quiet study in contrasts, a delicate balance between the person I was raised to be and the woman I was slowly, painstakingly becoming. I grew up in Port Blossom, a city that hugs the coastline, where the scent of rain on pine needles is the region's unofficial perfume and the sky is a perpetual watercolor of soft grays and blues. Our family home, however, was anything but soft. It was a place of sharp edges and loud expectations, a world presided over by my father, Richard, a man who measured life in stock prices and promotions, and my mother, Carol, who measured it in social standing and suitable marriages. And then there was my brother, Leo. 2 years my senior, Leo was the sun around which our family's universe spun. He was everything they valued: loud, confident, ambitious, and on a career trajectory as straight and predictable as a Roman road. He'd climbed the corporate ladder with an almost brutal efficiency, and our parents' pride in him was a constant, blinding light in our home, a light that often left me feeling like I was standing in the shadows. My path was different. It was a winding trail, not a highway. It was paved with the quiet wisdom of my late grandmother, Eleanor, a woman who taught me that the strongest things in nature, the ancient redwoods, the deep-rooted roses in her garden, grow slowly and without an audience. She left me her life savings, a sum of $250,000 that my family saw as a frivolous windfall. To me, it was seed money for a different kind of life. The soft clinking of ice in my brother's glass pulled me back to the present. We were gathered in our parents' living room, a space decorated in stiff, formal furniture that always felt more like a showroom than a home. The air was thick with the triumphant energy of Leo's latest victory, a new, prestigious role at Oakhaven Dynamics, the city's most established and, in my opinion, most stagnant tech firm. My business cards lay fanned out on the polished oak coffee table where they'd slipped from my grasp. Leo picked one up, his lips curling into a familiar, condescending smirk. "Artisan Growth Advisory," he read aloud, his voice dripping with amusement. The sound of his laughter, sharp and dismissive, filled the room. "Amelia, really? It sounds like you're selling handcrafted pottery, not business advice. When are you going to give up this little hobby?" I felt a familiar tightening in my chest, a sensation I had learned to breathe through rather than fight. I watched as he casually tossed the card back onto the table, its corner now slightly bent. At 32, Leo was the golden son, a newly appointed senior vice president at a company our father had revered for decades. "It's not a hobby, Leo," I said, my voice softer than I intended. I began to gather the cards, the thick, cream-colored cardstock feeling solid and real in my hands. The name, Artisan Growth Advisory, was one I'd chosen with care. It was a reflection of my philosophy, that growing a business was like tending a garden, requiring patience, skill, and a deep understanding of the unique ecosystem. It was about nurturing potential, not just chasing profit. "Well, whatever it is, it's not paying the bills, is it?" he pressed, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. He was wearing a new watch, a gleaming silver behemoth our parents had gifted him for the promotion. It caught the light, flashing ostentatiously. "Let's be honest. Advisory is just a pretty word for looking for a job." My mother entered from the kitchen, balancing a tray of canapés. Her smile was bright, but her eyes were filled with the familiar worry she reserved for me. "Amelia, darling, you know your father could always call his friend Robert at the bank. They're always looking for bright young people. Something stable, with a real future." I straightened, placing the stack of cards carefully into the pocket of my blazer. The blazer was a quiet luxury, a tailored piece from a small designer, its quality in the cut and fabric, not a label. It was a metaphor for my life's work, substance over show. In their world, I was the perpetual disappointment, the daughter who'd squandered a first-class education and a promising corporate start to chase a dream they couldn't comprehend. "I'm doing all right, Mom," I replied, my gaze drifting towards the window, where the evening mist was beginning to curl around the distant fir trees. My all right was a carefully constructed understatement. My all right was the quiet, methodical work I'd been doing for the past 4 years, turning grandmother Eleanor's gift into Solstice Capital, a holding company now valued at over $90 million. My all right was the silent acquisition I'd finalized just this morning. All right doesn't get you a corner office, Leo chimed in, sinking into our father's favorite wingback chair as if it were a throne. While you're advising, I'll be reshaping the future of Oakhaven. They're lucky to have me. The CEO himself told me I was the key to their next decade of growth. A small, unbidden smile touched my lips. I knew the CEO, a man named Arthur Gable. I'd spent the last 3 weeks in intense, confidential negotiations with him. I knew he was exhausted, out of ideas, and desperate for the lifeline my company was offering. Leo had no idea that his glorious new future was about to be placed under entirely new management. When do you officially start? I asked, my tone light, genuinely curious. Monday, he beamed, puffing out his chest. He reached into his own jacket and produced a sleek, black business card case. He slid one out and placed it on the table with a flourish. Leo Vance, Senior Vice President, it declared in stark, silver lettering. Unlike some, I have a real title at a real company. Just then, my father entered the room, his face alight with a pride so potent it was almost tangible. Leo, my boy. I was just on the phone with David from the golf club. The whole city's buzzing about your move to Oakhaven. Finally, a Vance making some real noise in the business pages. He spared a brief, dismissive glance at my cards on the table. Amelia was just showing us her project, Leo said, the condescension returning. Dad sighed, the sound heavy with disappointment. Sweetheart, it's been 4 years. This entrepreneurial experiment was a nice idea, but maybe it's time to face reality. For years. To them, it was 4 years of me floundering, playing at business from my small apartment. They imagined me struggling to make rent, taking on odd jobs to support my hobby. They had no idea about the discreet office I kept downtown, the small, brilliant team I'd assembled, or the portfolio of promising tech and sustainable energy startups that Solstice Capital had quietly nurtured to success. They didn't know because I had never told them. Their validation was a currency I had stopped trying to earn. Actually, I said, picking up my handbag and shrugging on my coat, I have a rather important meeting on Monday morning. Things are changing. Changing. Mom's interest was piqued, her hope flaring. Are you finally taking that interview at the bank? Something like that, I offered, a gentle smile playing on my lips. I thought of the final confirmation email that had landed in my inbox just before I arrived. The one stating that Solstice Capital's purchase of a 62% controlling stake in Oakhaven Dynamics was now complete and would be announced to the public on Monday. Well, don't come asking me for an introduction at Oakhaven, Leo called out as I walked toward the front door. We have a certain caliber of employee we look for. I paused at the threshold, turning back to face them. The three of them stood together, a united front of conventional success, their faces a mixture of pride for him and pity for me. Don't worry, Leo, I said, my voice calm and even. I have a feeling we'll be seeing each other at the office very soon. The drive back to my apartment was a soothing balm. The steady rhythm of the windshield wipers, the slick, dark streets of Port Blossom reflecting the city lights like scattered jewels, the quiet hum of my modest electric car, a deliberate choice to avoid drawing unwanted questions. My apartment was my sanctuary, a minimalist space on a high floor overlooking the harbor. It was filled with books, plants, and the tranquil silence my childhood home had always lacked. My phone, which I'd silenced during dinner, lit up with a string of messages. Mom, Leo left some of his old networking contacts for you, darling. He said you might find them useful. I put them on the hall table. I imagined the stack of business cards, a well-intentioned but deeply insulting gesture, and sighed. I typed back a simple reply. Me, thanks, Mom. but I have all the contacts I need. The weekend unfolded in a slow, meditative rhythm, a stark contrast to the celebratory storm brewing within my family's group chat. Mom sent photos of the floral arrangement they'd had delivered to Leo's new office. Dad forwarded a financial news article praising Oak Haven's venerable stability and speculating about its future. Cousins I hadn't heard from in months chimed in with effusive congratulations. I read them all from my own office, a bright, airy space in a LEED-certified building downtown. The Solstice Capital logo, a simple, elegant sunburst, was etched discreetly on the glass wall behind my desk. From my window, I watched the Saturday morning fog drift in from the water, shrouding the base of the skyscrapers in a soft, ethereal blanket. It felt fitting, a visual representation of the way I'd operated for years, quietly, effectively under the radar. Amelia, my assistant Clara's voice came through the intercom, warm and efficient. Just confirming the final details for Monday. Mr. Gable and the board have all signed the NDAs. They're aware of the acquisition, but only Mr. Gable knows your identity as the principal of Solstice. I smiled, recalling my final video call with Arthur Gable. The poor man had looked utterly stunned when he finally connected the brilliant, anonymous strategist behind Solstice Capital with the younger sister of his flashy new hire. He had paled considerably. And Leo Vance's onboarding is scheduled for 8 a.m. with HR, Clara continued. The all-hands company meeting is at 10 a.m. in the main auditorium. As you requested, we've ensured he has a reserved seat in the front row. Excellent, Clara. Thank you. Let him have his moment. My phone buzzed again. It was Leo. Leo, last chance for some brotherly advice, little sis. If you ever want to play in the big leagues, you have to look the part. My business cards may have been expensive, but they say I've arrived. Yours say I'm still hoping. I set the phone down without replying. Clara entered my office, a tablet in her hand and a wry expression on her face. You might want to see this. Your brother is quite active on professional networking sites this morning. The post was a masterclass in hubris. A professionally shot photo of Leo, arms crossed, smiling confidently in front of the Oak Haven Dynamics logo. The caption was a bold declaration, thrilled to begin my journey as Senior Vice President at Oak Haven. Get ready for a new era of innovation and bold leadership. I'm here to shake things up and redefine the future. My father's comment was the first one, posted seconds after Leo's update. That's my son. Show them how it's done. If only he knew, I murmured, a wave of something that wasn't quite pity, but close to it, washing over me. It was a sadness for the narrowness of their vision, for the opportunities and relationships they'd missed by focusing only on the shiniest objects. Clara, I said, looking up from the tablet, please ensure we have a photographer at the meeting on Monday. I'd like to have a clear shot of the front row during the announcement. Already arranged, she said with a small smile. She paused, her expression softening. He also mentioned in the comments that your parents will be coming by Monday morning to see his new office. He's taking them on a tour before the meeting. I took a deep breath. Even better. Let them be there. It's time they saw the full picture. I spent the rest of my Saturday not in celebration, but in quiet preparation. I reviewed the strategic plans my team and I had developed for Oak Haven. The company had a solid foundation, but was suffocating under layers of bureaucracy and a risk-averse culture. It was ripe for the kind of nurturing, intentional growth that Solstice Capital specialized in. Our plan wasn't about aggressive cuts and hostile takeovers. It was about pruning the dead wood to allow for new, healthier growth. It was about investing in people and fostering the kind of innovative culture that my brother, with all his talk of shaking things up, wouldn't know how to build. My phone continued its relentless buzzing. Mom, Leo's office has a stunning view of the mountains. I hope one day you have a job with a nice view, dear. Dad, your brother is already setting up meetings with Oak Haven's top clients. That's how you build a real career, Amelia. Leo, heard they have a small mailroom that might be hiring. Great place to start from the bottom. Let me know if you want me to put in a good word. Winking face. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened a drawer in my desk and pulled out a small, velvet-lined box. Inside was my grandmother's locket. It wasn't flashy or expensive, just a simple silver oval, worn smooth with age. I opened it. On one side was a tiny, faded picture of her, and on the other, a microscopic engraving of her favorite quote from a poem we both loved: "The hum of bees is the voice of the garden." She had taught me to listen for the hum, the quiet, productive, essential work that happens beneath the surface, far from the dramatic pronouncements and grand gestures. Solstice Capital was my garden, and on Monday, the world and my family would finally hear its hum. That night, for the first time in a long time, I dreamt of my grandmother's rose garden. I dreamt of the rich soil, the sturdy, thorn-covered stems, and the impossible softness of the blooming petals. I woke feeling centered and calm. Monday morning dawned with a pearlescent sky, the kind of soft, promising light that often follows a night of rain in Port Blossom. I dressed with intention, choosing a simple but impeccably tailored suit in a shade of deep forest green. It was a color of quiet strength, of life and growth. Around my neck, I fastened my grandmother's locket, its cool silver a familiar comfort against my skin. As my car navigated the morning traffic towards the city center, Clara called me. "He's here," she said, her voice a mixture of professionalism and disbelief. Mr. Vance arrived at 7:45 a.m. "He's making his presence felt." "Oh," I asked, a sense of inevitability settling over me. "He's already informed 3 senior project managers that their roles are under review. He has demanded that his office be repainted by the end of the week because the current shade of blue is, and I quote, insufficiently dynamic. And he's trying to get HR to bypass most of the orientation paperwork so he can get to what he calls the real work." I glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 8:20 a.m. How long until the all-hands meeting? An hour and 40 minutes. He's digging his own hole with remarkable efficiency. "Let him dig," I said softly. "It's important he feels the full depth of it." At 9:40 a.m., my driver pulled up not to the main entrance of the Oakhaven Dynamics Tower, but to the private underground garage. As I stepped out, I saw my parents walking proudly through the shimmering glass doors of the main lobby, looking as though they were attending a royal function. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed with one final message. "Leo, corner office is even better than I imagined. Don't strain your neck looking up at me from the street." Winking face. For the first time all weekend, I typed a reply. "Me. Looking forward to seeing you in the auditorium at 10. Don't be late." His response was instantaneous. "Leo, sorry sis. Big leagues now. This meeting is for executives only. Maybe you'll catch the memo." I smiled, took a deep breath, and walked towards the private elevator that would take me directly to the backstage area of the auditorium. The security chief, a man named Henderson who had been briefed by my team, nodded respectfully. "Welcome, Ms. Vance. We're ready for you." It was time to tend to my new garden. At precisely 9:58 a.m., I stood in the wings of the stage, the low murmur of hundreds of employees a gentle roar in the cavernous auditorium. Through a small gap in the heavy velvet curtain, I could see them. My family. They were seated in the front row, beaming. Leo was leaning back in his chair, a portrait of smug satisfaction, whispering animatedly to our parents. Our mother clutched her handbag in her lap, her posture ramrod straight with pride. Our father was scanning the room with the air of a man surveying his rightful territory. "All set," Clara whispered, appearing at my side. She handed me a small bottle of water. "The board members are in their reserve section. The press is in the back." And she added with a slight, conspiratorial smile, "Your brother just sent a company-wide instant message. It says, prepare for a paradigm shift. The future of Oakhaven starts now." I shook my head, a small, sad smile on my face. He was so certain of the story, he couldn't imagine a different author. Arthur Gable, the outgoing CEO, met me in the wings. He looked nervous, constantly adjusting his tie. "Ms. Vance, your brother, he's already tried to fire Sarah in marketing. She's been with us for 22 years. I had to intervene." "Don't worry, Arthur," I said, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "All of that will be sorted out. The paradigm shift is indeed coming. Just not the one he's expecting." At exactly 10 a.m., Arthur walked to the podium. A respectful silence fell over the room, punctuated only by Leo's stage whisper to our father, "Here we go." He's probably going to introduce me as the new face of the company. "Good morning, everyone," Arthur began, his voice amplified by the microphone. "Thank you all for being here. As you know, Oakhaven Dynamics is at a pivotal moment. There has been much speculation about our future direction. Today, it is my distinct honor to put that speculation to rest and introduce the person who will be guiding us into that future. Please join me in welcoming the founder and principal of our new majority shareholder, Solstice Capital." I watched Leo lean forward, an expectant, hungry look on his face. He was probably picturing a grizzled, ruthless corporate raider, someone he could emulate. Arthur took a breath. "Please welcome our new leader, Amelia Vance." The silence that followed my name was the most profound I have ever experienced. It was not an empty silence. It was heavy, thick with shock and disbelief. As I stepped out from the wings and walked into the bright lights of the stage, I saw it. I saw the exact moment Leo's world tilted on its axis. His self-satisfied smile froze, then crumbled. The coffee mug in his hand slipped from his fingers and shattered on the polished floor, the sound unnaturally loud in the silent room. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with incomprehension. My father's face, which had been flushed with pride, turned a ghastly mottled white. "Thank you, Arthur," I said, my voice steady and clear as I took my place at the podium. I looked out at the sea of faces, hundreds of employees staring up at me, their expressions a mixture of confusion and dawning realization. I let my gaze rest for a moment on the front row. "Good morning. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Amelia Vance. I am the founder of Solstice Capital. As of last week, Solstice has acquired a 62% controlling stake in Oakhaven Dynamics." A wave of whispers and murmurs swept through the auditorium. I saw phones being raised, recording the scene. In the front row, Leo looked like he'd been struck by lightning. He was staring at me, his mouth slightly agape, as if seeing me for the first time. "I know some of you may be concerned about what this change means," I continued, my voice resonating with a calm authority I had spent years cultivating. "I want to assure you that Solstice Capital is not here to dismantle Oakhaven. We're here to invest, to nurture, and to grow. We believe in the potential that lies within these walls, a potential that has been stifled by outdated structures and a fear of innovation." I glanced towards my brother, whose arrogance had been replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated panic. "Some of you may have received a message this morning about a paradigm shift. That shift begins today. But it will be a shift towards collaboration, respect, and sustainable growth. Not one based on ego." I clicked to the first slide of my presentation. It showed the Solstice Capital logo and our core philosophy, nurturing potential, building futures. Under our new leadership, Oakhaven will be fundamentally restructured. We will flatten hierarchies, empower our creative teams, and invest heavily in R&D. My father, recovering slightly, stood up. His voice, though shaky, boomed with years of practiced authority. "Now see here, young lady, what is the meaning of this?" "Security," I said calmly, without raising my voice, addressing the guards standing discreetly by the doors. "Could you please escort any guests who are not employees of Oakhaven Dynamics from the auditorium? We are about to discuss confidential company strategy." As two uniformed guards moved purposefully towards the front row, Leo shot to his feet. "You can't do this. I am a senior vice president of this company." "Actually," I said, clicking to the next slide, which displayed a simplified version of the new organizational chart. "As part of our streamlining of upper management, that position has been made redundant, effective immediately. I looked directly at him, my expression not triumphant, but matter-of-fact. Your employment, which was contingent on the old management structure, is terminated. HR has your severance package ready. But my office, my business cards, my announcement, he stammered, his voice cracking. Your personal effects will need to be collected by the end of the day, I stated, my tone even. As for the announcement, consider this the correction. My mother was openly weeping now, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Amelia, how could you be so cruel? To your own brother. I met her tear-filled gaze, and for the first time, I didn't feel a sting of guilt, but a wave of clarity. Was it not cruel to dismiss my life's work as a hobby? I asked, my voice carrying through the silent hall. Was it not cruel to measure my worth only by the standards you understood? This isn't about cruelty. It's about consequences. The rest of the hour was dedicated to laying out my vision for Oakhaven's future. I spoke of new projects, of employee profit sharing, of creating a workplace culture built on trust and mutual respect. I answered questions from the staff, who slowly transitioned from shocked to intrigued, and finally, to cautiously optimistic. And through it all, my family sat in the front row, watched over by security, a tableau of shattered assumptions. After the meeting, I found them waiting for me outside the large corner office, the one Leo had been so proud of. The scent of fresh paint still lingered in the air. This is a disgrace, Leo hissed, his face contorted with fury and humiliation. I've told everyone about this job. You've ruined me. You were so eager to build a reputation, Leo, I replied, walking past him to look out the large window at the mountains, their peaks clear and sharp in the midday sun. Perhaps you should have spent more time building your character. A lesson in due diligence. Always know who you're working for. My father stepped forward, his tone shifting from outrage to a clumsy attempt at negotiation. Amelia, princess, let's not be hasty. We're family. Family helps each other. I turned from the window to face him, to face all of them. Did you help me, Dad? When you called my business an experiment? Did you help me, Mom, when you tried to push me into a safe job I didn't want? Did you help me, Leo, when you laughed at my dreams? I let the questions hang in the air. We were just worried about you, my mother pleaded, her voice thick with emotion. We wanted you to be secure. No, I said gently, but with a firmness that left no room for argument. You wanted me to be a reflection of you. You wanted me to fit into the box you had built. But I wasn't made for that box. I walked around the large mahogany desk and sat down in the leather chair. My grandmother's locket felt warm against my skin. My security, my success. I built it myself. It doesn't require your approval or your permission. Leo made one last, desperate appeal. The club, my friends, my career. You have to give me something. A different role. Anything. I don't have to do anything, Leo. That's the point you've never understood. I opened my laptop, signaling the end of the conversation. Then, I paused and reached into my jacket pocket. I pulled out one of my own business cards, the one from Artisan Growth Advisory. I slid it across the gleaming desk towards him. But since you find yourself in need of some professional advice, here's my card. I hear the advisory field is growing. As security finally escorted them out, their shoulders slumped in defeat, I heard my father quietly ask Leo if his old job at the bank was still a possibility. The sound wasn't satisfying. It was just sad. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of productive change. At Oakhaven, the old, stagnant air began to clear. With the layers of oppressive management gone, ideas began to flow. Morale lifted. The company's stock, after an initial dip, began to climb steadily as news of Solstice Capital's forward-thinking, employee-centric vision spread. My family reacted in predictable ways. My mother sent long, rambling emails appealing to a sense of familial duty I no longer felt obligated to. My father tried to call a few times, his tone alternating between angry demands and awkward attempts at reconciliation. I didn't answer. Leo scrubbed his social media of all mention of Oakhaven and posted a vague status about taking some time to explore exciting new ventures. About a month after the acquisition, I received an email from the dean of my old university. They invited me to be the keynote speaker at the business school's upcoming graduation ceremony. The proposed topic was forging your own path, redefining success in the modern world. I accepted immediately. The morning of the speech, I sat in my office, the corner office with the mountain view, reviewing my notes. A single, perfect white rose, taken from a new bush I'd planted on my balcony, sat in a slender vase on my desk. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize at first. It was my mother. "Mom, your father and I would like to come to your speech today. If that would be all right." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a demand. It was a simple, quiet question. It was a start. "Me, it's a public event. You're welcome to be there." Looking out at the city of Port Blossom, a city I had made my own, I thought about the nature of success. I thought about business cards, crumpled and pristine. I thought about the loud pronouncements of men like my brother and the quiet, steady growth of my grandmother's garden. True success wasn't a victory over others. It was the quiet, internal victory of becoming yourself. It wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that my own path, the quiet, winding trail through the woods, was the right one for me all along. On my desk, next to financial projections and strategic plans, sat my grandmother's locket, a silent, shining reminder that the most powerful things in the world don't need to shout. They simply, quietly grow.